people talk about child welfare, and we can't have a child welfare system until we get money from the government. And I said, what if a white man had never come here? And we needed to take care of our children. What would we be doing if the white man never came? Ask yourself that question. We would be taking care of our children, probably without the kind of money that the government's throwing around now. Maybe we would figure out how to take advantage of the use of resources and capitalism to gain that income, but the reality is that it's quite capable, you're quite capable, the communities are quite capable of taking care of its own children without government funding. You figure that out. If you can figure out how to do that, you're part way to kicking the government out the door. You're most of the way to kicking them out the door. And that's the key to this future, is to figure out how to kick the government out the door. Because they will tell you that you need them. They will tell you that you can't do anything because it's against the Indian Act, or it's against this other law, or against this other program funding, the formula that you've signed. But the reality is, these are your kids. And when it comes to doing what's best for your kids, you are the law. And you need to stand up for that. If you don't mind, I'll end my comments with you at this point and tell you that I really love being an Anishinaabe. I love being an Indigenous man. I teach my children to be proud of who they are, and they all are. I teach my children to stand up for who they are, and they all do. And I teach my children to take care of me as an old Indigenous guy, and they do. And I really appreciate the fact that we are living in an age now where we're starting to make change happen. And we can't make it happen fast enough, but we have to make it happen as fast as it can happen. We cannot afford to sit back and wait. Not in this area. We cannot sit back and wait. Miigwech, get out there and kick some ass.
Originally, there was just to be one authority. It was kind of a super authority for the entire province. It would give the mandate to all the agencies. When you hear that word mandate, what does that mean? I asked the authority's lawyer to define it for me. Like, what does that mean, mandate? And what he said was, essentially what it is you're giving the agency permission to apprehend children. So that's what it's rooted in. So when you hear that mandate, if a mandate is pulled, it means that that agency would not be able to apprehend children or function in other ways, right? So the province decides they're going to enter into a process called devolution, where they'll devolve family services to Indigenous people, to First Nations people, but it didn't really work that way. What ended up happening, the way it's been described to me, is you had the same system, but you just put some feathers into it so that it looked Indigenous, but essentially it was the same system, right? Because as the Honorable Murray Sinclair was saying, government doesn't want to give up control. They don't want to give up the way that money is spent, right? But you guys have an opportunity for the first time to see that that might start to change and will change.
So in Canada, what you see up on the screen is their Constitution Act. Okay, it was passed in 1867. That is, in Canada's legal system, that is the highest law in the country. And if you read that document, it says this is the supreme law across the country. And what that means is that any law, whether that's a provincial law or a federal law, has to be consistent with that document. If it's not, it's what they call unconstitutional. So already, if you think about it, and if your worldview is that of an inherent right or of a treaty right, a world lens, you can see already how it's different. Their source of power flows from a written document. If you're an inherent right, if that's your worldview, we don't have a written document that says, here's what your jurisdictions are, here's what your powers are. So that's one big difference to keep in mind. The Constitution Act consists of a number of documents. It's been changed. The word is amended a few times. In 1982, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms was added to that Constitution. So that is now part of the highest law under Canada's system. The Charter is a document that guarantees individual rights. So my right against unreasonable search and seizure by the police. You've probably heard of that. My right to have a speedy trial. You've probably heard of that. And on it goes. My right to have freedom of religion. My right to be treated equally under the law. That's what the Charter provides. And it is part of now of the Constitution. Again.
And we said no children are suffering with the broken system that we have here. This is not our system. This is all colonial system that's operating from federal government and provincial. So it's not working. So we need to develop our own systems, our own laws, and also not working the way it should. We looked at prevention, and here we, in order for CFS, our own way, we need to develop our own laws, incorporate our own laws, and we need help from the whole community through stories on how it was before.
Who should be responsible for investigating and determining when a child is in need of protection and apprehension? First of all, we need a safe place, get the children calm, start process, ask what happened, maybe even the next day. We need these expertise. Don't want to burden a grandparent. Workers should be out, not in office. Build trust. About the workers, being out and about, we kind of discussed that most of the CFS workers are in the offices doing office stuff and only read the reports on children. It'll be great if we can get a larger number, and actually have on-hand approach to actually talking to the children instead of being clinical and having a form to fill out. It'll be just best just to get to know the kids.
Okay, so foster care oversight, child protection needed, so the mediation process can be used here. Also meeting with the family, also having community and elder involvement in the decision process. Family should be informed and kept in the loop. We need standards, and they need to be followed for the best interest of the children. Leadership council. So we talked about the social workers sometimes, or the agencies are hard to get a hold of. Communication, and that standard comes back into place. And one of our standards that we said, maybe they work with the families on a weekly basis. We also thought info sessions for teachings and protection for children, like education. We also thought utilizing frontline workers would be beneficial, so more training provided, teaching parental skills, and we thought that instead of the agency, maybe getting elders involved and community members. So we talked about grandmothers, grandfathers.
Okay, all of the work needs to be rooted in the cultural knowledge and the history of the community. More focus on the community and the family, the spirit of the child, the family, and community, This needs to include traditional teachings, more involvement between children and the elders, going back to the traditional teachings. Our ways of thinking need to be decolonized. This is going to be a community-run program with no provincial incorporated involvement, including land-based programs for healing. The current system takes away from parenting. One of our activities could include community mediation. An example that was given there was the program offered at one point with Oasis around Minnesota and Minneswin. And for anybody involved in this new program or service would include knowing your family tree.
The first question was, do we need child protection, child welfare, child and family services? Do we need all these? So, child protection, child welfare, CFS, we did a, somebody said yes. For the families that don't have an extended family where they would probably wouldn't have a family in or any community, I guess. But the need would still be there. Prevention, we still have to have prevention. Community-driven initiatives, I guess. More support services for parents living with challenges.
We've met as much as we could through the pandemic. We planned when we could, we got together when we could, we were meeting on Teams and virtually when we could, but the goal was to get us here today, right? So I'm glad that we're here. And just so folks know, this is one of many conferences, meetings, and gatherings that'll happen with our people. I also want to acknowledge our Dene brothers and sisters as well, because I was reminded a few months ago that almost over 300 years ago, there was a Dene woman who arranged a peace between the Dene and Innu people in the northern part of our country. Because at that time, we weren't getting along, right? Now, we share grandchildren. That is a beautiful thing. So just acknowledge all of you that are here from the Dene communities. I also just want to acknowledge and recognize my staff that were here for the last couple of days. My senior staff were here. I also know some of our local staff are here from the different communities, so thank you for showing up. There are some things that I know some of you may have questioned about, why would a WASIS agency be here at a conference like this when they're very much a part of the system that has been a problem for us for many, many years. And I asked myself that same thing. What could we contribute to this gathering? And I think the first thing that I can say to you is that WASIS doesn't want to be a part of the system any longer either. Right? We know that there are ways and things that we can do differently, better. It's just that right now, that's what the system we're in right now is a provincial system. Our hope in the next few years, and before I retire, that's my goal. Before I retire, we'll be part of a different system that is controlled and designed by our First Nation people. So keep that in mind when you're discussing this with your family and friends back home when you're meeting at conferences, that I want to retire under a new system. That's what I'd like to leave behind, right? A legacy, something that I was a part of. I think that's all we can ask of one another, is to leave something different, leave something better for the kids that are yet to come.
Up. And once arriving, and I know Rusty alluded to this, once you get home, continue to keep the project in mind. If at any time you have an idea or a way we can improve this project and make it more effective, email somebody from the 3 partnering organizations, and we'll see what we can do about making sure that we do follow up. And this is only one of more engagement sessions that we're gonna have. Maybe the next engagement session, let's bring more of our community members out. I think that was encouraged earlier on this afternoon, to bring somebody else to the next engagement session.